We haven't even been live on YouTube. You couldn't be watching it on YouTube. So YouTube, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize that I didn't have the stream going. But you missed the intro, so you might as well know right now that we're only going to be able to do some of this on Rockfin. So we're going to be going over a ton of stuff from boop boop passports to opening day baseball. And this isn't an April Fool's joke, okay? This is it. Man, I can't believe I just didn't have that live. Upsets me when I do that. I was wondering why I only had like 27 people watching, and now only 22. So thumbs it up. Subscribe, share. We're going to get into it. And here's the thing. Before we get into this video piece, this is Snopes, okay? You know, when I was playing, for instance, video clips of parliamentary figures warning about this 2 months ago, I actually talked about this. I was in the cigar shop, and I showed this to a Canadian citizen, that these internment camps, right, were being created. Now, of course, Snopes calls them government facilities. Okay? So, government facilities. So this is Trudeau. Okay? And again, just a puppet of the predator class. This is not a new normal. Okay? This is not about a boop boop or a virusista. Okay? This is about an agenda. If your results come back negative for COVID-19, you'll be able to head home and finish your mandatory quarantine there. Wow. Well, so I'm healthy and I want free movement. I still don't get that, but I get to go home. Wow, good for me. If your test results come back positive, you'll need to immediately quarantine in a designated government facility. This is not optional. Now, unfortunately, YouTube will not allow me to discuss certain solutions that are outside of lockdowns and government mandates. But on Rockfin, we'll be doing that later. I'm going to show you an exchange I had with somebody who's parroting the bullshit. And when I put out the facts, they just keep parroting the bullshit, the same narrative they hear again and again and again and again and again. Okay? So what does Snopes mark this as? Now remember, it's government facilities. True. Hey, so there is no denial. There is only semantics in what are you calling government facilities. And that's why we'll end up playing this Tucker clip, because it is going to be important for people to see that and understand that this is now mainline. And here's some of the other stories we're going to go over. Okay, I want to show everybody this. Now you see Washington State residents, right? Now, New York woman reveals she got the virus a month after her second shot. And of course, it's an indoor wake without a mask, as if that's how they know she caught it. They don't. And that wasn't the headline at first. They softened the headline, right? They constantly are doing this, softening, changing the headline. We'll be going over that. Cuomo, who's still in office, got paid $4 million as America's governor to write his book. $4 million. He didn't even write it. It's a ghostwriter. That's how these things work. Basically, to put his face and name on predator class propaganda as he carries out their operation of rolling lockdowns, okay, and slave training for you and your children with an Excelsior pass. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. I want to say props to the Rangers for allowing 100% capacity. Now, I don't know what other, hoops everybody's going to have to go through. I hope none. I hope none. I hope zero. I hope masks are a suggestion. But of course, Biden's derailing them. And now he wants players to get involved, okay, and protest the All-Star game being in Georgia for political purposes. Because Georgia wants actual voting restrictions. This is the bizarro world we live in. This is it. 2021. Remember, Bilderberg didn't put it on paper about their agenda saying the post-truth world because they weren't planning on taking over with it. We are living in such a post-truth world, you have no idea. And that's, again, you go back to my videos. What did I say to you? at the end of all this, and more questions are coming out again and again and again, it's going to be you don't know who or what to believe. And so many people are there and confused right now because they weren't prepared for a not new normal, but a new world order agenda repackaged in a great reset that Trudeau tells you about, right? So here's the other part of the slave training. And again, we're going to get into real solutions and a lot more over at Rockfin. But for the everybody audience, before we go over there, now you can't ride on this cruise line unless you show proof of a double boop boop. But it doesn't end. So now you got to do that, but you still got to social distance on your vacation and wear a mask. Think about that. Think about how ridiculous that is. You did what they said. You bent the knee. You are paying for a vacation and they still want you, and everybody else did. Otherwise, you can't ride. And they still want to treat you like a slave. Is anybody not getting it yet? I keep telling you, this is the modern day civil rights movement. Doesn't matter what the color of your skin is, or what gender you identify as, or any of that nonsense. Who your sexual partner is, how many you've had, what kind of family you want or don't want. It's all of us. It's all of us. They want full-on control of our lives. Okay? And if you missed my initial rant, which you did if you were watching on YouTube, I was talking about going through my feed and all these people talking about, black markets for the boop boop passports, but they don't understand. It's going to be digital generated QR codes that are attached to your GPS and your identity. You're not going to have that choice, unfortunately. That's the reality of the situation. I know people don't want to realize that reality, but it's not like in the old days where you just get a fake ID and go to a bar. That's over. Okay, so the black market's going to be very, very different if it's going to exist at all. Because this is about control. That's what Naomi Wolf is warning you about. So now here's what we're going to do. We're going to play this Tuck piece, and Tucker gets a lot of it right, but he doesn't go far enough. And he gets some things wrong, which really disturbs me. Okay? And we're going to go over when he gets it wrong. And I don't know what else to say. The guy's attacked me. He's attacked, loose change. He's attacked 9/11 truth. He's much too soft. He's still making this about right and left, right? Not trying to have a pun there. But I also now see him being attacked as he's putting out QAnon talking points through dog whistles. And I know how the media has so desperately wanted 9/11 truth and loose change to be equated with QAnon sense. And I can't deny those things. So I'm going to play this clip of Tucker, and he's going to lay it out for you.
The kind that will definitely not improve your life. We're taking a close look at that plan tonight, and we will have details for you tomorrow. But first tonight, what if your next-door neighbor suddenly went dangerously insane and started holding people hostage in his house? Would you consider that threatening? Would you even notice it?
Would you even notice it? Well, unfortunately, a lot of people don't notice it. That's why these people, first of all, there's people out there right now that are doing some sick stuff. But we know about these people that get away for it years and decades. I remember they found like a underground dungeon guy in Syracuse, New York. So would you even notice it? I don't know.
Those are not theoretical questions. Something very much like that just happened in our national neighborhood. Canada, the landmass directly to our north, our single largest trading partner, the country with whom we share the longest international border in the world, Canada took a dramatic move toward legitimately dangerous authoritarianism. In Canada, yes. Here's just one measure of it. On Monday, the country's Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, outlined his government's new corona regulations. Canadians hoping to return to their country must be tested before and after takeoff, he said. Quote, if your test results come back positive, you'll need to immediately quarantine in designated government facilities. This is not optional.
So let's just stop that. You know, we've talked about Trudeau. We talked how he likes to play dress up. We've caught him in literal blackface twice. In fact, YouTube likes to censor things. So they actually censored not my video on it, but the thumbnail where I had Trudeau in blackface and stuffing his pants on like a camping trip with a bunch of other, you know, predator class, children and trust fund babies and minions. And then, of course, there's the Aladdin. And look, they put these goofballs out there because they seem kind of harmless and gentle and people can relate to them. You remember George Bush, right? He just wanted good things for America. And his daddy did a good job. We knew that the administration was behind there in Cheney. And literally, George Bush, much like Joe Biden, ran nothing. The difference was that it wasn't so in your face. In fact, I would go as far to say this, and I know this is going to shock some people. Joe Biden was actually involved more in the inner workings and behind the scenes stuff that built up this military industrial complex and invasion into Eurasia and the current war on terror and domestic terror infrastructure. 100% he was. You know who wasn't meeting George Bush? The head of the ISI, the Pakistani ISI, in the week after 9/11, on the morning of 9/11, meeting with the head of the commission that will initially investigate 9/11. It's Bob Graham and Porter Goss, right? He was meeting with Tenet, all these other people, also met with Joey B. And Biden was a mover and shaker for these people. That's how he made it into the vice presidency. All right? They liked Joey B and his gangster attitude. So they put up the buffoon like Bush was running anything. Bush wasn't running nothing. I mean, he could barely read off a piece of paper, not because he was mentally going, but because he wasn't built for the job. But now you got a guy that's like whispering into a microphone and pre-recorded videos and talking about his pappy, and it's embarrassing. Okay? So they put someone up, non-threatening like Trudeau, to bring in the authoritarianism.
Designated government facilities. Now, when this happens in other countries, and it does, we call those facilities internment camps. But because this is Canada we're talking about, a place we assume is passive and polite and Anglo to the point of parody, no one thinks to use that term. In fact, no one thinks about it at all. Trudeau's internment policy has been in place since last month. And as far as we can tell, no major U.S. network has even mentioned it. And neither has our State Department, which ordinarily seems to exist to make unhappy noises about human rights violations around the world. But not a word about Canada. Preconceptions may play some role here. We assume that interning people is what Russia does. Boring people is what Canada does.
Not anymore. But again, those are just narratives. That's all. They're just narratives.
But not anymore. Suddenly, Canada is a flagrant violator of the most basic human rights. Fail a COVID test and they will lock you up without trial and go ahead and try to disobey. According to the Canadian government, anyone who attempts to avoid these rules, detention in a government internment facility, for example, could face $1 million fine and 3 years in prison. And
again, that coincides with the story we did yesterday, where our Department of Justice is now going to go after people, quote unquote, civilly, who haven't committed crimes yet. In other words, they're going to try to make you go broke defending a media military industrial complex that has amalgamated into this force where if you dare question the narrative, they will use all of their tools at their disposal to get rid of that voice, including now financially ruining you.
This is Justin Trudeau's Canada. It's funny, Trudeau always seemed like a cheerful idiot, wearing weird costumes and yammering on about diversity. Who knew he was Mussolini? There might be a lesson here for other nations that are led by shallow neoliberal empty suits. Know any? Underneath all the chirpy identity politics talk, it's not a joke. It's internment cells. In Canada, where everything has a euphemism, those cells are referred to as approved quarantine hotels. What are they like? Well, as noted, they're internment cells. What do you think they're like?
Exactly. Listen, you're not taking me anywhere I don't want to go. I am not a criminal. These are not actual laws that have been passed. Okay, these are based in authoritarian dictates where real solutions are no longer being offered unless those solutions include you not only bending a knee, but putting yourself into what? An internment facility.
There are shortages of food and water. You could be sexually assaulted as you're held in one. Listen to a member of the Canadian Parliament explain what they're like.
The Liberals instituted a federal hotel quarantine requirement for those entering Canada. We have heard reports that it is taking hours to get through to book these hotels, dietary restrictions are not being met, and food and water is not always readily available.
Why would it be? It's not an actual hotel where you can order things, right? Where you can go places. That's not what it is. It's a scary and scarier government facility based in a bunch of Johnny nonsense. Not because the virus isn't real, it's real. But because, again, solutions that were available were never used. In fact, they were demonized and continue to be silenced so they can institute authoritarian facilities for people like you and me who dare to say, what is going on in this world? I'm not part of this Great Reset, New World Order agenda.
That's in addition to this program continuing after reports of sexual assault. This is mind-boggling.
Oh, the Liberals did this. It's not very liberal to intern people, is it? According to a report in the Post-Millennial, the doors in many of the internment facilities don't lock. Detainees have no way to protect themselves while they sleep, hence the sexual assault. They also don't have access to adequate medical care. In one case, Canadian authorities detained a man with diabetes called Ray Truesdale. What was Truesdale's crime? Well, it was flying from Tennessee to Toronto on a business trip. As he waited in confinement for his corona test results, his jailers forgot to feed Truesdale for more than 24 hours. Ultimately, Truesdale left his cell and went downstairs in search of something to eat. And there he found others who were being held without food. They were screaming, he said. In the end, Canadian authorities informed Truesdale that his coronavirus sample had been damaged somehow, so he had to remain in internment.
And it's been damaged. Oh. Again, guilty of nothing. Guilty of nothing. Presumed to be some kind of infectious disease, threat to society, without explanation. 2021, folks. 2021.
Or consider Mitch Beaulieu, a Canadian who landed in Calgary after a business trip to Florida. He told Canadian television the experience was very much like a kidnapping. He was put, quote, in a black van with tinted windows and taken to an undisclosed location. Where am I going, he asked. Why am I going there? The response, we'll tell you everything when you get there. He thought it was a prank. He thought it had to be, but it wasn't a prank. Quote,
and remember, guys, remember when I first did those videos about SUNY Oneonta last year, where they had people in hazmat suits taking students in vans without explanation to, one facility, where it ended up just being a party anyway. I mean, that's how arbitrary this stuff is.
I got out there and there was plastic all over, people walking around in hazmat suits. It was like jail, pretty much. Yeah, just don't call it jail. And that's an order directly from Canadian state media. This fall, the CBC, Canadian State Media, ran a story with this headline. Prime Minister health officials warn Canadians against believing COVID-19 internment camps disinformation.
Again and again and again, they gaslight you as they do this. All right? Whenever people are trying to raise the alarm bells, no. The old Leslie, no.
Warn them against believing. Sound familiar? That claim, that conspiracy theory, said CBC, that the federal government is preparing to forcibly intern Canadians is patently false. The CBC assured Canadians the government was preparing, quote, voluntary quarantine sites. Yeah, voluntary in the sense of being mandatory.
Yeah.
Which is what they are. They're mandatory.
Yeah.
And by the way, as a matter of science, how does packing infected people into crowded internment facilities reduce the spread of the coronavirus? That's a good question, and some have asked the Canadian government that very question, but they haven't explained. We do know, and this is significant, that Canada has fallen far behind other advanced nations in distributing the vaccine, which is interesting given the decades of propaganda all of us here have been subjected to about the glories of the Canadian healthcare system.
Now, let me stop it there. This is where we would have that disagreement. This is where we would have that disagreement. I mean, they're going to roll it out there anyway. But again, nothing is changing here. All right? Absolutely nothing is changing here as if you want to go on vacation. And remember, you know what? Let's do this one live. Let's see if we can find it. In Europe, let's go. Let's type in holiday. No, not there. Yes, it is. So they call vacations holidays. It's illegal even if you've been double vaccinated. All right, so it doesn't matter anyway. So this is where me and Tucker part ways on this. The boop boop, I'm not any kind of boop booping, especially when, and again, we'll do this on Rockfin. We'll present real solutions instead of the boop boop. All right, but when we have people taking 2 boop boops and then becoming infected anyway, right? And people don't want to address that. We're also going to correct Tucker on another one coming up. But let's continue.
According to Andrea Taylor, who researches this at Duke, Canada, quote, had more faith in the global supply chain than other countries. Oh, they believed it worked. The globalism thing. That turned out to be a big mistake.
Yeah, but that's what this is. And that's another thing. Like, he's not calling it out for what this whole thing is. This is all about globalism. This is all about the 4th Industrial Revolution. This is all about the New World Order. This is all about the building of an automation nation of UBI slaves and medical martial law on the road to a transhumanist agenda.
But rather than admit that globalist stupidity is why they can't get vaccines to their population, Justin Trudeau has decided to punish his own citizens. It's his fault, and the population gets punished. Do you recognize that impulse? Does it look familiar to you? It should, because neoliberalism is always the same, no matter where you find it. What's so interesting is that Canada's new rules apply only to COVID patients.
Oh.
Other transmissible diseases are exempt. People with AIDS aren't being sent to internment facilities, thank God.
Yeah.
No one's tried that since Fidel Castro did it in the 1980s. Drug-resistant tuberculosis is fine, too. That's a real problem, but not in Canada. Only COVID, a disease with a 98% survival rate.
Let's stop. It's higher than 98%. Now, I want to show this to make sure people know these are from authoritative sources. And by the way, the WHO just on Twitter commented on ivermectin. That's all I'm going to say. We'll be doing that part on Rockfin. But again, we want to be factual. It's actually 99.4% survivable, according to the World Health Organization, all the way back in August. And let's play this clip.
What we understand about mortality, there's different ways that mortality can be calculated. And if we look very crudely, if we look at the number of people that have died over the number of people that have been reported, you get a certain percentage. What many groups are looking at right now is what we're calling the infection fatality ratio, which is looking at the number of deaths among all of the people who have been infected. And right now, we don't know how many people have been infected because there are challenges with surveillance and detecting every single one of the cases. And certainly, there are many unrecognized cases at the moment. What we understand from many of these studies, these are estimates of the IFR, the infection fatality ratio, is that the estimates hover around less than 1% of 0.6%. And there are a couple of studies that are out that have estimated this 0.6%.
So again, 0.6%. So again, Tucker's not really even going as far as he needs to here. You have to get them with their own numbers. And notice she's actually alluding to the fact it's actually probably more survivable than that. And remember, we're not treating them with the sort of things that we're going to be talking about on the Rockfit. All right? And we're not taking into account all the people that were put on vents early on. Odd.
Weirdly, too, and you may recognize this as well, at the same moment they're clamping down on travel by their own citizens, the Canadian government has announced plans to admit 400,000 new permanent residents from other countries over the next 8 months. And by the way, that number will increase substantially over the next couple of years. None of those people, those immigrants from the third world, will be forcibly quarantined in Canada. We're not calling for them to be, but it's interesting, the difference. They won't be arrested. In fact, they'll be rewarded because they're not citizens. Only the citizens are punished. Back in November, Justin Trudeau admitted what's going on here.
Now, before we get into this, and he's going to talk about, again, the Building Back Better, the Great Reset agenda, that this really, just like Klaus Schwab can make a book, and let's do it live so people understand, with COVID-19 on the cover, all right? Let's do it, okay? COVID-19, the Great Reset, Klaus cover, and people still just don't seem to get it. I mean, this isn't about a virus. Right on the, I mean, big letters. Big letters. And again, this Great Reset is nothing more than repackaged NWO nonsense. That's all it is. That's all, and people still don't get it. And again, this guy can come out and say it, and Tucker can point it out, and he points to John Kerry and him talking about this same thing. And I did that same video on John Kerry. We showed him saying it. In fact, we played a lot more of those significant points where he's explaining what's happening.
It's not about coronavirus, stopping the virus, saving lives. No. This pandemic, he said, is an opportunity to permanently change Western civilization.
This pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset. This is our chance to accelerate our pre-pandemic efforts to reimagine economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality, and climate change.
The Great Reset. And we don't want to give Justin Trudeau too much credit. He may be sinister, but he's not smart. It's not like he thought that phrase up. No, he took it from his role models in this country. At a forum hosted by the World Economic Forum in mid-November, John Kerry, our new climate czar, laid it out. Yes, he said, the Great Reset will happen. And I think it will happen with greater speed and with greater intensity than a lot of people might imagine. In effect, the citizens of the United States have just done a great reset. We've done a great reset, and it was a record level of voting. We're at the dawn of an extremely exciting time.
And again, the reason we're playing this is, listen, is Tucker late to the ball game and not going hardcore enough? Sure. But now it's gaining more and more acceptance that this is what's happening. They are putting it out there. This has nothing to do with the virus. They've already told you about rolling lockdowns via the media for climate change. And yeah, exciting time, and Tucker gets it right here, for them, not us.
Has it been extremely exciting for you? Has it been extremely exciting for most Americans as the people in charge mismanaged this country all the way to the brink? No, it probably hasn't been. It's been a sad time for most people. But for power-mad leaders hoping to eliminate centuries of constitutional restraints on their own ambitions, it is indeed an exciting time. Could what is happening in Canada happen here?
They're trying.
That's the question. That's the whole point of this segment. You might not think so. We don't need internment cells here because, unlike Canada, we have the vaccine and we're distributing it to tens of millions of people.
And again, the vaccine's not going to be enough. They're already talking about a third shot. It's going to be a fourth shot, a fifth shot, a variant here, a variant there. But again, we're going to get to a lot of that on the other side over at Rockfin. So if you haven't made that free Rockfin account, we only get about 5 more minutes on YouTube.
Once you're vaccinated, you can live normally.
But you can't.
That's the whole point of getting vaccinated.
But you can't. But you
then
can't.
You wonder, if that's true, why are Joe Biden and Kamala Harris still wearing their silly little obedience masks everywhere they go? They've been vaccinated, so is everyone around them. So why the masks? Why the restrictions? What exactly is going on here? We know it's not science. We know that for certain. According to the CDC, once you are vaccinated, of course, you don't need a mask anymore.
we can kind of almost see the end. We're vaccinating so very fast. Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick, and that it's not just in the clinical trials, but it's also in real-world data.
Crocodile tears CDC woman, who, by the way, is telling you on the flip, she wants these restrictions. Trust me. So again, I got some big problems with the Tuckster, but at least he's pointing out their doublespeak.
Well, we hope vaccinated people don't carry the virus. Otherwise, why are we getting all these vaccines? What's the point? Turns out the real-world data confirms common sense. Once you get the vaccine, you don't need a mask. That's a Biden employee. So why is everyone still wearing it? Why are people with vaccinations walking alone outside with masks on? Why are Joe Biden and Kamala Harris wearing masks? Sincere question. You'd think our media would ask that once in a while, but they're not. They're asking very different questions in the other direction. In fact, they're heckling members of the opposition political party, people who've been vaccinated, and demanding that despite the vaccination, they put their masks back on.
And I don't like Ted Cruz here. I'm not a big Ted Cruz guy. But come on, man. This shows you about the nanny enforcement of other people.
Putting a mask on for us?
Yeah, when I'm talking to the TV camera, I'm not going to wear a mask, and all of us have been immunized, so...
How do you make us feel better?
You're welcome to step away if you like. The whole point of a vaccine, CDC guidance, is what we're following.
The whole point of the vaccine, as if we needed to be reminded. We do, because we've lost sight of that. That's what the science says. But nobody cares what the science says. Wear your obedience mask immediately. It would make us feel better, which is the passive-aggressive way of saying, do it or else. Now, watching that does make you wonder, how would our media react here in the United States if Dr. Fauci one day reluctantly concluded that actually we need coronavirus internment facilities in this country? Obviously, for our safety, we don't want to violate anyone's rights, but we got to have them. Sorry. How would our media respond? Take a look at the clip we just played again. Look it up on the internet. You see that reporter and you realize that person badly wants Ted Cruz tossed into the back of a black van for coronavirus noncompliance. Hauled away. And not just Ted Cruz, but you too. In fact, all the disobedient, politically inconvenient people held without trial, on public health grounds, of course, until they no longer pose a mortal threat to the rest of us. And by the rest of us, of course, we mean the good people, the people who obey.
And that's why we played that clip, because that wrap-up's 110% right. So listen, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, thumbs it up. Can we get at least 150 thumbs? Man, we're going to be talking about how a woman tested positive already, actually got sick with symptoms after the double boop. We're going to tell you how Tucker doesn't really, see, he should have told you. You can't, and again, this coincides with them trying to go and make you go broke if you dare to leave a country, if you dare not to obey. And this is out in the UK, in England, all right, after the double boop. And here in the United States, again, it's about digital passports, all right? And it is about still complying, even if you're double vaccinated and everybody else around you is double booped. So if you haven't made the free Rockfin account, rokfin.com/Jason Burmis. Go there now. Make the free account. If you want to go premium, thank you so much. I appreciate it. At the top of the hour, I'm actually going to be doing a show where half of it's only going to be available premium on Primal. I forget what his name is, but I'm going to be on his show, and then probably in a few days, I'll put it up premium style here for those that do support the show, so you guys can check it out here full from Jason Burmis's perspective as well. But with that being said, all the links are down below. At Jason Burmis is the Venmo. Jason is void at yahoo.com. That's the PayPal. That's how to support me right now. But mostly the Rockfin. So YouTube, I love you, but I'm going to have to see you all on that flip side, because we're about to rock some Rockfin truths we can't talk about here. And they include truths about Budesky